Yo, you guys know what time it is. Welcome back to the Men Who Cry podcast. Please like, subscribe, review, tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend. If you do not do these things, I have to assume that you're going to evade your taxes this season. On today's episode, Lane Riordan is back. We're here to talk about all the things on the hot stove. We're going to talk about a little bit of the leftovers. And I'm not talking about the stuff happening at Thanksgiving. But first, Lane, how are you doing?
You know, we're doing all right. Yeah, I am recovering from being sick. Never fun. It's like a super light and easy week in the world, you would say. So just like news wise, I'm doing like awesome. I bought a bunch of silver this year. This is completely unrelated. I got really into buying like precious metals. I bought a bunch of silver this year and it spiked and crashed all
Are
in
you like Jack
4
Sparrow
days.
now from fucking... Also,
Yeah, that's the
question.
goal.
Does Pirates
That's the
of the
goal.
Caribbean mean anything to you? Okay.
Oh my God, yeah, dude, that first movie is like one of the most rewatched movies probably in my house ever. I love that movie.
So now I have two stories to share. So
Yeah.
I remember Pirates. Me and one of my best friends from growing up. We're still friends to this day. But there used to be a movie theater by our. We lived like not that far from each other. There used to be a movie theater by our homes. So we used to go to this movie theater all the time. And Pirates came out, I think, in 2000 or so. So this was one of the first movies I remember seeing by myself. I didn't see it as an adult, essentially. And the movie theater that I went to, I tell people a lot, I didn't know that every other movie theater didn't have metal detectors in it because my movie theater did. So I just thought that was like a common practice. Like we had to walk through these metal detectors every single time. I swear to God, I went to a movie theater for the first time that didn't have one, and I was like, "Y'all do this? It's like, what happens if?"
You're like, what if somebody's got a gun?
Yeah, I'm like, yo, y'all, it's not normal to y'all. Anyway, so we go in, and I swear to you, we're like, I think we see this movie like super late because like there's no one in this movie theater. We see it like it's like noon or 1 o'clock, whatever. So maybe that was it. But we're going in, and like I remember this movie theater has like a super long, like kind of like dimly lit hallway. But like if the movie isn't on yet, you can kind of see into the movie theater. And so I'm like a little bit ahead of him. And so I'm walking and like I'm about to open the door because like I think the movie started like maybe like 12 or something like that. But like, you know, credits or, you know, whatever. And when I tell you I opened the door and it's the first time I see a woman giving a dude head. And I was like, oh. And I just like turned around and then my friend was like, what happens? Like, bro, we can't go in yet. And I swear to you, we turned back around. And I'm like, I think and like we're kind of like having a discussion, like, what should we do? I'm like, I guess we just wait. And like, I guess so I think I don't remember exactly what we did at that point, but I definitely remember just being like, because I know the side of the movie theater they were on the side. They're on like the left hand side. So then there's no assigned seats in this thing. So like we were like, all right, let's just pass it and go to the other side and wait till it's dark. And we walked there, we sat down, and we were like, yo, that was kind of crazy, wasn't it? And we were just like a moment in time. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. You were foundationally changed by that experience.
Yes, because like I didn't know. All I saw was bobbing, and I knew what was happening, but like I didn't know what it was called. But I was kind of like, oh, that's just happening there, and that was definitely a watershed moment for me in my life. Shout out to that brother getting movie head.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Totally.
I've never experienced that.
Same,
but
you know, maybe
gotta
you need to go to that movie theater.
So
maybe
sad
that's
thing, unfortunately, is that movie theater is now no longer here anymore. That was shout out to Valley Stream, Green Acres Mall. That's now Green Acres Common. No, there's like a conglomerate of stuff over there, but there definitely is a Dick's still over there. Speaking of, the actual story I wanted to share was I think I realized like I think I was like being culturally appropriated this past week, but it took me a minute to realize it. So I'm not going to out anyone because being brown and speaking a different language is licensed for you to get shot potentially. But around my neighborhood, around my block, there's a corner store, It's not a bodega. I've never called these things bodegas, but it's a corner store around me. So I'll go there, get like water or juice or whatever. And it's run by, Pakistani people. And so I saw this one guy who, honest guy, I don't know his name, but we always say like, yo, what's good, man? Blah, blah, blah. We have like long conversations, whatever. Someone else is there at this point running like the store. And I think this guy, he's probably younger than me. If I had to guess, he's probably like 19, 20. What I realize is that the thing that I always do anytime like I say what's up to people, if I don't say their name, I go like, yo, what's up, brother? And so he was like, oh, what's up? And so we would like have this dialogue. But what I didn't realize was like he uses that every time he sees me now. So every time I walk into the store, he's like, what's up, brother? And I'm like, hey, man. And he's like, how's your day? And I'm like, I'm good. He's like, how's your day? It's good, brother. Like it's like literally now his like catchphrase almost. And I had to sit back and I go like, yo, this motherfucker just and like it's such a weird like dynamic of he definitely took that from me, but I also can't like say anything really back to him because it's not like I know his name. You know what I mean? And so now it's just like we have this almost like brother off as I walk into the store. And it really hit me the last time I went and I saw him, and I was like, well, this dude does not know how to like address me in any other way. Anyway, speaking of brothers, brothers are getting paid. We are here to talk about the last bit of free agency. We still have like maybe a little bit of a touch point at the very end for people, but for you guys here, we'll be talking about the last couple of moves that we will make. Starting with Lane's team, Alex Bregman to the Cubs, playing second base. I
third.
think.
He's playing. No, he's playing third. Yeah. Matt Shaw.
He's
Matt
playing
Shaw's going to be utility.
Your homie Matt Shaw. He's out there.
Okay.
You sure he's not going to be out there becoming a preacher?
Maybe he's going to move on to other things. Is what I'm saying. No, he's gonna play utility. That's what the. I mean, at least that's what it seems.
Other athletes have transitioned. So if he's in his transition phase, you know what I'm saying? That's for him. We also have Freddie Peralta going to the Mets.
Freddie Peralta to the Mets.
We'll touch on. We'll get into every one of these specifically. Yeah, Cody Bellinger back to the Yankees. Bo Bichette also to the Mets. Of the 4 deals I just named, those are probably the biggest of the deals that have happened in the last probably week, 2 weeks. Which one of those do you like the best?
I like Peralta to the Mets as like a piece of good business. It's also the type of thing where, from an outside perspective, I feel like fans of other teams never really know what other fans' prospects are actually worth, and it's hard to even know what your prospects are worth. Like, for example, the Cubs traded Owen Cassie, who was like our number 1 prospect, for Cabrera, that pitcher from the Marlins. And like, I don't really have an opinion on it because I really don't know what Cassie's going to be. So it's kind of hard to say what the Peralta trade will end up grading out as. But why I like it so much is that the Mets have a specific need and they go out and fill that need. As a Mets fan, did you like it? Or are you worried about the prospect giveaway? Stout is his name, right? Stout and that second baseman.
Brandon Stout. Yes. So the Mets gave up Brandon Stout, who was one of their best young pitchers. If you didn't realize last year, Lane, when the Nets season was collapsing, our GM's best idea was, you know what? Let's bring up 3 rookie pitchers and see if they can save the season. It didn't work.
Did it work?
Brandon Sproat was one of the pitchers that it did not work. Brandon Sproat was one of the pitchers that they brought up, and to me, he's not really the guy that well, let me say this, right? The Mets actually had an abundance of pitching prospects. Historically, the Mets have had a lot of great pitchers that they've developed and traded for. Zach Wheeler, Cy Young candidate for the Philadelphia Phillies. He was actually acquired in the Beltran deal from the Giants. Harvey, DeGrom, Syndergaard, most of Doc Gooden. Like, I can go on the laundry, Tom Seaver, I can go on a laundry list. Historically, the Mets have always been able to develop their own pitchers and haven't necessarily needed to spend big money on signing guys. So with that said, the Mets also had like a lot of really good pitchers in their minor league system now. Nolan McLean is probably now going to be their number 2. You had Jason Tong, who might be in their rotation. He might be like their 7th guy, depending on if they trade Kodai Senga. They also had Christian Stott, who was there 2 years ago, but he had Tommy John. That's why he wasn't on the team last year. Jet Williams is really the kind of the name that people have that are kind of out there. I'm not that big of a prospect cover, especially if you can go ahead and sign free agents, right? The Mets, historically, when they were under the Wilpons, they were run like the Cincinnati Reds. They didn't spend money at all. Now that you have Big Cohen, who's out there spending bags upon bags, he getting like guys like that and hitters, which is where I think most of the money on your team should go to. I don't think it's going to be that big of a problem. Big of a problem. The issue I think that Mets fans have that I am interested in is this guy going to be a rental, right? Because as you've known and as I've kind of alluded to, our GM does not spend money in terms of years. When the Mets try to sign Kyle Tucker, who we'll also talk about a little bit later when it comes to the Dodgers, they only gave him a 4-year deal, and really it was a 2-year deal. The signing Bo Bichette is essentially a 1-year deal. It's the same deal they gave Pete Alonso last season. And so I'm worried if he is going to want to sign an extension or go into free agency. Because if he goes into free agency, someone's giving him 7 years, 5-year deal, right? Like Ranger Suarez got 5 years. Someone's going to give this guy a long-term deal. The other side of it, though, is he is 30 years old. He's coming off a really good season, and he's made no money. And biggest thing is Scott Boras is not his agent. So he's kind of alluded to the idea of wanting to get an extension. The Mets have signed extensions into during the season, quote unquote. If you remember when they traded for Francisco Lindor, they extended him in spring training. These are 2 different players, so I don't necessarily think that that's going to be the case. But I will love the deal if he signs an extension. If he's just here on a 1-year deal, obviously if they win the World Series, and it's a great deal, right? But if he's just good and it's a 1-year deal, I like it. But him leaving in free agency will always be a risk, even with the Mets having the money that they do.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely going to come down to whether it can be a long-term thing. I think there's a lot more potential with Peralta already. Like, if you're looking at his 24 season versus 25 season, 24 he threw his slider like 30% of the time. Then last season he dropped it down to like 15%, and he was throwing his changeup and his fastball at almost at the exact same rate. They were all hovering around it's roughly. He had pretty an even pitch distribution as far as his pitch pie went, and his slider is his nastiest pitch. So there's clearly something that he didn't want to be using that pitch as much for. And I think that with that there is room for even more potential to be unlocked, which is why I think this year is going to be so interesting for him, because he has something to prove in the way that he wants that huge bag that he hasn't gotten, that you said, because he got signed for 7 years for 30 mil forever ago with the Brewers. So he's waiting for that big payday. And just historically, in every sport, paycheck years are often times when the guys have to give the most because they need to prove that they need that biggest bag. I am personally really excited to look for how he continues to use his slider going into this next year, because he took a big step back from the 24 season to the 25 season with how much he was using it. And the Mets are pitching coaches that care about that nasty pitch. If you look at Senga and Manea, that's the whole thing. And so I'm really excited to see where he ends up this year as far as his literal pitch selection. I think he has the possibility to go from being a top 10 pitcher to rivaling a Cy Young pitcher. So I think that that potential makes it worth it.
Sorry.
Yeah. No, totally. I just think that potential makes any trade worth it,
Yeah. And the one thing that I would say, baseball doesn't really have a lot of these, I would say, pitching matchups anymore, due to the fact that pitchers don't go super long and the randomness of a schedule. But if it's warm enough, and hopefully it is. I mean, it's gonna be March, late March. I want to go to see Peralta take on Paul Skeens. The Mets are playing the Pirates, game 1 of the season, and it's in New York. I thought it was gonna be in Pittsburgh for some reason, but it's in New York. So I'm definitely looking forward to seeing those guys go. Now, granted, they might go combined 9 innings, but I think stuff like that, like you said, like he's highly motivated to do this, and I think for the Mets aspect, it's like, okay, how do you feel about that, right? Because the fact that he at least seems open to a negotiation to me is positive. But for me, if I was the Mets, I'm trying to sign him before we get to the season, because once you're in the season, you're in the season. And if you get to the All-Star break or whatever, and he's maybe in the Cy Young competition, his agent's like, we're not signing anything. We're gonna ride this out into this. There's no purpose to sign now. We might as well wait until we get to the end of the season and hit free agency, and we know we'll have the Dodgers, the Cubs, the Mets. Like we'll have the Philly. Like we'll have teams, wanting to give us the bag. So it'll be interesting to see. Pitchers and catchers are coming soon, and so we'll see. Whenever they're able to get things going. But I do want to talk a little bit about Bregman going to the Cubs. Seems like that's really the only move the Cubs did in the offseason, was signing a 32-year-old third baseman and now putting their Shaw made the All-Star team last year, right? Or did I get that wrong?
Yeah, no.
Okay.
PCA and Tucker were All-Stars. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, speaking of deals that went bad for the Mets, getting Javi Baez, PCA. So those prospect things can go wrong. But yeah, like tell me a little bit about how you feel about Bregman's fit on the Cubbies this year.
It's interesting. So obviously, like from an annual value perspective, they paid pretty high. It's a 4-year deal with a no trade clause. It's like 35-ish a year, I think is how it's going to work out, with a lot of deferred money, 70 million deferred money. It's a lot of money to pay for a third baseman that is undeniably is getting worse at hitting as he's getting older. His peak was like 3 years ago, and that makes a lot of sense for his style of play. So I think then if what you're paying for is, you have to believe that there is such a high level of leadership and stability that this player is going to bring to your franchise that will like permeate your clubhouse. That's to me the only reason that they can spend this much on him and make it make sense for themselves. He's going to be a good glove. He's always been a good glove, and he's gotten better throughout his career at third base. And he will bring the sort of, he's not a power hitter. He'll bring a bat to ball that is important for any lineup to have. Is it important for 35 million a year? Who knows? It's also a bit of a future-proofing move because it gives them flexibility. So Nico, the second baseman, Gold Glove, All-Star second baseman, or the ability to be an All-Star, he's a free agent after this next season, and I'm guessing they're going to let him walk. So the two options are, they either trade Matt Shaw for some pitching help, or they keep him as a utility. He can play literally shortstop, second base, or third base. So he has a hyper beneficial from a utility perspective for the infield. And he can play all those positions at the highest level defensively. So they're either going to keep him as a utility guy for this season and then move him to second base when Nico walks, or they're going to trade him for pitching help and go all in on this season. So I think that will probably be something we see in the first 40 games, 50 games, see how the season is going, and then if they're going to splash on more pitching, it will come from Matt Shaw. It's not a move that I love, in the fact that I don't think Bregman is really going to move the needle a ton. But this team has just told me over and over again that they're not going to spend money. So I am appreciative that they're going for it in some regard. And I'm also appreciative that the other big move of the season was that they traded Owen Cassey for Cabrera from the Marlins. And while that guy is extremely injury prone, he is like rated out as one of the most interesting pitchers stuff wise. And if they believe that they can keep him healthy, then I'm all for that move. It's another one that's like truly kind of similar to the Peralta one, but on the injury side of things versus the rental side of things, where it's like the prospect give up might end up looking really bad. But you just can't know in this first year. How do you feel about Bregman? Do you feel like he's a fit? Do you feel like he's still got the juice? Where's your head at with him?
Yeah. One of my favorite moves. Always try to get players from teams that don't spend money. Freddie Peralta was on the Marlins. So was on the Marlins. Always just try to tap into the Marlins. They're, a quadruple A team at this point. I don't love it, like you said. Having a guy like you kind of just detailed, 32-year-old infielder, losing, I would say, well, third base you don't need as much range, but might still be a little bit of an issue. And you gave him like real money, right? These are not like deals that, he might be able to opt out of, you're able to get out of. My kind of concern is the thing you actually just mentioned, and maybe it's more of a conversation as well of just baseball in general, but maybe specifically for Bo Bichette, Shaw, and Brett Beatty, who's also on the Mets. It seems to me that there's a lot more of like, hey, that guy could just play that position in baseball. Yes, there's always that, if you play baseball, it's like, hey, you're not that good of a defender, go stand in left field, right? Because whatever, the ball's not going to get there with most like right-handed people or whatever. And so I am curious to see, I think the Mets are taking this risk and the Cubs are taking this risk in the sense of like, we are going to have flexibility with who's playing what position in our field. Like currently right now, Bo Bichette's set to play third base, and they're going to have Brett Beatty play left field unless there's another trade or a move in the works. Like that's kind of their lineup, and he's never played left field before, right? And to me, that's a little bit of a concern because they just traded for Roberts, who's going to play center field. Now, he's a great center fielder, but you also have a very bad right fielder in Juan Soto. My man, he can't run 100 feet, 100 yards, right? He can only run so far. Do you think that this is more of like a thing in baseball where we're almost going to be like, hey, we will teach you how to play a position and we want your bat in the lineup, instead of it being like, no, we need a left fielder, we need a third baseman, we need a second baseman per se?
I definitely could see that happening. Yeah, it's a sort of like, it would kind of fit with the way that it's almost moving positionless in like all sports. I mean, maybe not all sports, but if you look at basketball, the way that like basketball has become a sort of positionless sport, and how baseball has become like so much about just that matchup between pitcher and hitter, as our hitters have gotten 1,000 times better and as our pitchers have gotten 1,000 times better. The importance of being even just like a competent hitter, I feel like has risen so much as like averages have plummeted, that I could definitely foresee a future where it's like, oh, we just need to find anywhere where we can piece this back in, almost like a second DH spot, and it becomes like very common where this outfield positions end up being just like, they've always been throwaways to some degree, but like easily could see that happening. I mean, I think the thing with Bo Bichette is kind of interesting. I'm curious if it mirrors my feelings with Bregman at all. If you feel like there's somewhat of a, like maybe not an overpay. I know that contract is structured a little differently, where there's a opt out after the first year, basically. So
yeah, he essentially got the Pete Alonso deal from last year, where it's a 3-year deal, $30 million, I think, a year, or $40 million a year, but he can opt out after each season. So he can opt in next season, he can opt in the following season as well.
Do you have any feeling of was the satisfaction of signing him more that the Phillies didn't get him, or that you got him?
I would say neither. I don't really
Okay.
know how to feel about Bo Bichette, to be honest. I think he can really hit. I'm always nervous about guys coming from different markets. Now it's Toronto, so I don't want to say Toronto's a small market, right? But I can't compare it to New York or LA or Philly or Boston. But I'm very concerned that he's got a hit. Like one of the things that a lot of Mets fans this season, as you saw me crash out about Edwin Diaz, was a lot of fans liked Pete Alonso. A lot of fans liked Brandon Nimmo. A lot of fans liked Edwin Diaz. And I think them trying to piece together essentially 50 to 60 home runs between Beatty, Bobichette, Roberts, Simeon is going to be tough. I don't know if they're going to replace those guys. And it takes a while, I think, for especially baseball players to adjust to this city and deal with that. So that to me is the big question mark, just because he's also playing a new position. He's going to play third base. You're now taking your third base from last year and, like I said, put him in an odd position in left field. I think it can work because I think ultimately Bobichet's the type of hitter that will like figure it out. I'm not expecting this dude to hit 40 bombs, but if he gives me 25 to 30, close to 100 RBIs, and isn't a butcher at third base, I think it'll be a good deal. And I think like we talked about with Peralta, he's also highly motivated to play well because he can leave next year. And if you look at the free agent list of guys who will possibly be free agents, he can arguably be the best free agent next season. Outside of Schoolboy will be the best free agent next season, but like in terms of a hitter, he can be the best free agent, meaning that he can sign a way larger deal than he got from the Phillies. So I don't know. Like to me, when it comes to the Mets and the Phillies have won the division. I think we're going like 5 years in a row, 6 years in a row. So I didn't necessarily think that like them getting Bobichette would have made them any like that much better. I think the Phillies are going to make the playoffs again. And do I believe they're going to win? No. But I didn't look at it as a win for the Mets per se, that he didn't go to the Philadelphia Phillies. I think it was just like I looked at it more as like we needed him on our team more than we stole him from another team, if that makes sense.
Totally. I think that this Phillies 5-year era, this stretch of dating back to probably like 2019, is going to be really interesting to look at in 10 years from now, where it's like they had this prolonged success, but it seems like they're never going to be able to really make it happen, and they're just running it back. And I think that that's one of the things that will be curious to look at, is the way that teams like the Mets have completely overhauled their lineup this year versus last year. And it probably took a season going as disastrously in the second half as what happened to the Mets last year to make them do that. But in the long run, will that actually be better than what the Phillies do, where they basically just are like, let's just keep going. Maybe this year we're going to get the injury luck. Maybe this year we're going to get something, the ball's going to bounce our way.
And that's the thing that's tough for the Phillies, because like you said, right, it's almost like they were the team right before the Dodgers got it going, right? Like, because they had a World Series appearance, they had an NLCS appearance. They've made the playoffs every year, I think, pretty sure since they've gotten Harper on the team. Maybe the 1 year that he was hurt, but they've made the playoffs all the time. They've advanced in the playoffs, every single year. And yeah, like it's one of those things where it's like, I think their core of guys, you can argue, won way more than the Mets core of guys. I mean, the highest achievement that the Lindor, Nimmo, Pete Alonso team got was 2 years ago with the NLCS run, right? But that team missed the playoffs a lot. That team, I'll never forget them winning 101 games and losing in the wild card round to the Padres at home. Like, the amount of winning that this Philadelphia group has done, it completely trounces what the Mets have done. But I mean, I think their GM came out and said the quiet part out loud. These people do not speak in ways and go like, "Oh, I was misquoted." He said he didn't think Bryce Harper was getting better. He said he wasn't a great player anymore. He said that. Now he can clean it up and spin it however he wants to, but he said that. And so to me, the way that I look at his team was, like you said, because they didn't get Bobichette, they then pivoted to re-sign JT Realmuto, which a position that I do not want to give long-term money to for a well over 30-year-old player is catcher. Now, he's been great, right? He's a great catcher. But that position does not age well. Look at Yanni Molina's career, and he's one of the greatest of all time. And so I believe that the Phillies are going to still be good. I still think they are going to make the playoffs. And to me, just making the playoffs, because it's baseball, there's such randomness to it. There is a chance that they can be the team that loses to the Dodgers in the NLCS. But ultimately, I do think that this era of their core guys isn't going to be fruitful into anything. Speaking of the Dodgers, I do want to pivot to them, because I don't want to necessarily talk about their team per se, even though they did sign Kyle Tucker to a massive deal, beating out the Mets. I want to talk to you about just them in the state of baseball, right? Is it good for baseball this year for the Dodgers to win the World Series?
So I was just having this conversation with my sister at the bar like 2 nights ago. She is a big fan, and I've talked about with other baseball fans in my life, the feeling of like, since it's such a history-based sport and there's so much like lore that goes into baseball, and that's so much of like why we love this sport and just this long lineage and history. When a team is able to three-peat or create like a massive amount of success in a sport that is so hard and so often parity driven, there is something sort of special about that. And you look back at the A's teams of the 70s or the Yankees teams of the late 90s and 2000s, and it's like, there's this beautiful, there's a beautiful place in history for those teams. Living through it now, I think it would be terrible if the Dodgers win again. And the biggest reason, I think, is that in the last year or so, I feel like there has been a growing disconnect between like the three factions of baseball, which is the viewers, the ownership, and the players, where the viewers are blaming almost the structure of baseball itself for the Dodgers winning, rather than blaming the owners for refusing to spend money. And obviously the structure plays into, smaller market teams and smaller market owners not wanting to spend money. But it, to me, is always going to fall on the head of the ownership and the literal owner, rather than on the players or on the overall structure. So we've heard a lot of talk about the salary cap and the way that might be pushed for by the ownership group. And I think, really going back to your question, if the fucking Dodgers win again, I feel like there's going to be a massive public sentiment that it's needed, that is like almost a requirement, which is just not something that scares me. I'll say that. I'll say I don't know how that will end up at all, but that is worrying. Yeah. Do you think that do you think that even without the Dodgers winning a third, that the salary cap would be on the table, like actually on the table, or is it just a talk?
Yeah, I oddly think that this season for me is going to be the Dodgers versus the salary cap. And I think that we are going to have a very interesting conversation on what's going to happen if they are able to win again, right? Because I was just kind of thinking about the whole idea of the salary cap and things like that. And it's like, some people are throwing out the model of like, well, it can be like the NBA as well, right? The NBA has a salary cap. The NFL has a salary cap. NHL has a salary cap. The thing that people I don't think realize is it's not just that fact that those leagues have salary caps. They all have salary floors. Mm-hmm. And in the NBA specifically, the salary floor is 90% of the salary cap. Even and what are you going to do? You're just going to keep fining the Dodgers until all these players' contracts run out? That doesn't make any sense. So you want me to believe that the Pittsburgh Pirates are going to spend $400 million on their team next year? That's not going to happen. The Dodgers at over $400 million. Second is the Mets at about just under 360. Phillies are at 326. Dodgers are at 312, and the Yankees are a little under 300 million. And I think fundamentally, the sport I don't think is broken, because I do think you don't need to spend the most money to win. but it would shock you if any of those other if one of those 5 teams didn't win the World Series, right? I fundamentally just feel like owners of baseball are going to screw this up and we are going to have a lockout once again. And I don't think actually we will have a salary cap because I don't think that you will be able to convince enough players to accept that and have a salary floor be where it is, right? Because essentially the Pirates, the Reds, the Marlins, right? Like they don't pay as much for their entire team that the Mets play for Juan Soto, right? Or that the Yankees pay for your Aaron Judge, right? So ultimately, I find all this stuff to be frankly ridiculous. But I do think the conversation, like you said, is going to start to change in terms of what the Dodgers are and what the Dodgers represent. And I think if the owners had their way, I think there was already a report saying that if the Dodgers kind of win it, they're going to really push hard for the salary cap. And that's why I think for baseball and baseball to live on and to have a season, the Dodgers can't win. I think another team has to win this thing so we can finally stop this stupidity of trying to suppress the players from getting paid.
Yeah. I mean, it's so funny also because if you even think back about this last World Series, the Blue Jays were literally like inches away from winning. So it's not like it can't be done. The National League feels like an inevitability just because it feels like these teams are literally rolling over. Like everyone's just I don't even really like I have so little faith in these National League teams. They just feel like they match up terribly against the Dodgers. The Dodgers are so confident. But the Blue Jays showed that
the best closer in baseball for no reason.
Just because they could. Just because they could. I don't know, but the Blue Jays showed that it's not like they're literally inches away from winning the World Series. So it's like there's this, I don't know, this depression that's sort of hanging over. Yeah, inevitability that's hanging over the sport. But it's like, come on, we were so close to not even having this conversation at all. It would have been completely different if the Blue Jays had won. And so it feels a little doomery to me, and it feels a little like manufactured. Like I feel like I've seen more articles about the fucking salary cap posted by like actual, sports writers and baseball writers that I just feel like it's being pushed for by the ownership to such a degree that it feels like a psyop that's happening.
Yes.
I'm not. It doesn't even really feel real. It doesn't make sense to me that it would ever be anything of a reality. It's only being used as like a chess piece.
I mean, think about this we just mentioned him earlier. There's already talks of that the Pirates should trade Paul Skeens now.
We talked about this. Like we talked about if he was gonna get fucking traded because the Pirates were so inept like 3 months ago. Yeah.
It's like, what are we doing? It's like you have arguably one of the, since Strasburg, I don't remember a guy coming up and being this good this fast. And even Strasburg wasn't this good this fast. Ultimately, unfortunately, he's going to have the Tommy John because, they all have them.
It's coming for you.
It's coming for you, unfortunately. But I don't know, Scooble might not have had it. But either way, but, unfortunately, as a Jacob DeGrom fan, I'm very used to the Tommy John. The TJ around here. And the fact that like it's a real conversation that they have to trade this guy is embarrassing. Pittsburgh, and here's the thing too, same thing with like the Athletics. And it's funny because I was crapping on the Athletics the other day with one of my friends. But they just re-signed another one of their young players. And if you actually look at it, they've paid a lot of their guys. It's not great money, I would say, but like, listen, getting $70 million at 23 years old, there's a worse life to live. You can see them at least putting money into their guys now. And obviously these are risks, it's young baseball players. They can obviously go the other way, but I can at least look at them and saying, okay, there's actually a functioning way that they're paying their guys. Why doesn't the Pirates right now can pay Paul Skeens? Hey, listen, we'll give you 5 years, $100 million right now. There's no way he's turning that down. He makes nothing now, and the idea that they're just going to essentially just ride out this season now with him, and there's inevitability of like, all right, this guy's going to end up on the Cubs, the Yankees, the Dodgers, the Mets. Like there's no even belief, I feel like, amongst Pirates fans that he's even going to stay. And to me, that's a broken system. And that to me would be the only way that I would be in favor of a cap. And the idea that this is kind of an inevitability, as you were just alluding to, right? Like it's just kind of almost hovering around in the background of this team. To me, it's just sad. And if you look at a lot of the numbers, baseball's on a real high right now. I would argue that the way that this country is going in terms of their super push to being ultra nationalistic, their frankly desire to have, just be honest, whiteness be kind of the dominant thing in our spaces. I think baseball is primed to take over the second spot in our sports mindset over a sport like basketball. And with all that momentum, good or bad, whether or not I agree with it or not, these idiots are still then going to be like, you know what? F it. 2027 off the table is ridiculous to me, right? It's right there in front of you, right? Just walk into it, baseball. But they just don't seem to be able to want to get it done. Before we wrap up, I will list off right now the favorites to win the World Series. Obviously, the Dodgers, heavy favorites, they're at plus 220, followed by the Yankees at plus 950, Mariners 1300, Mets 1400, Blue Jays 1400, as well, bringing up the rear here with the Boston Red Sox 1600. Lastly, though, I want to talk to you about, because we always got to talk about the Yankees. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of what gets the people fed.
Yeah.
A very interesting offseason. Their fans are mad, but what's new? They brought back essentially the same team. Trent Grisham is back. They brought back Cody Bellinger. They will have Garrett Cole back from his Tommy John surgery at some point. I don't know if he'll start the season, but he should be back early in the season. And the thing I want to actually talk to you about the Yankees was something that we kind of talked a little bit about the Dodgers, right? I think that Yankee fans are extremely jealous of the Dodgers, right? Because that used to be them, right? They used to be able to get whoever they want, to get in every room that they needed to, and then they were able to, outspend anyone. I personally don't think outspending everyone is how you win championships, but that's neither here nor there. But we are getting to a place where it's not just the Dodgers. The Mets are outbidding them. The Phillies are outbidding them. The Cubs are outbidding them. And there was a conversation that Hal Steinbrenner had in I think it was the Post with Joe Sherman, talking about how the Yankees aren't a profitable organization. I doubt that, but listen, he sees the books, not me. And so I'm curious to see, as crazy as it might seem, because I'm tying this to, I don't know if you saw the story, what was happening with the Lakers and Jeannie Buss, and how that essentially ripped up their entire family. And it led to them selling the team to Mark Wahlberg, or Walton, who owns the Dodgers.
Mark Wahlberg would be crazy.
That would have been crazy. He's like, you know what? We going all green, yo. Green. Yo. Just move the team. Just move the team in New England. But my question is just, as crazy as it might sound, do you think the Yankees are going to sell? That the Steinbrenners would actually sell the Yankees?
No, I don't think they're going to sell. I think this is still more positioning. I think it's all set up for the owner's push. I think these big market teams are every owner except the Dodgers owner is, I feel like, more in front of public perception and more in front of public eyes than they have ever been before. I feel like I know more about these guys than I have ever known about any ownerships in the history of sports. I just feel like these baseball owners are always in front of my fucking face. And I think this is more about public perception than about actually meaningfully setting up for something as big as a sale. I think this is far more about wanting to be perceived positively and as like a as somebody who's trying hard rather than what he actually is, which you could add any amount of descriptive words there, depending on your own personal opinion of this of how. Um, do you feel like that? Like, do you feel like that if a sale were to happen, what would have to happen before to set that up? Like, what disaster would have to? How would we get there?
Did you watch Succession?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay. Jeremy, I do not remember Jeremy's last name. The main son, the oldest son, right? No, actually,
Yeah.
technically not the older son. That was Connor. Anyway, you know what I'm talking about. Like I just remember one of my favorite seasons when he did that rap LOB talking about his dad. But like I just remember his face the entire series, like towards the end of the series, how it was just he wanted this thing so bad, right? He wanted to run his father's company. He wanted to run his father's company, and I think for him, he was the one who was almost he saw his identity so much in this thing in this company, right? And how much stress it weighed on me. I mean, it broke up his marriage. His kids didn't really like him at that point. It really weighed on him, and I think at one point he was just like, screw this, like this thing is not the thing that I actually wanted it to be. I absolutely think this is how. Like, I think most of the fans hate him. Everywhere he turns, they're shitting on him in some way. I'm being dead serious. And it's the same situation. He has brothers. I don't know if he has sisters, but his brothers and sisters in the same lot. And I'm like, dog, this has got to be the worst way to be rich. Like, being rich is supposed to be fun, bro. You're supposed to be able to do whatever the hell you want. And it looks like this thing is eating at him daily. And so I don't know what that thing would be to get him to want to sell the team. But I'll tell you this. If he keeps looking the way that it is, he will break. And I don't know if it's going to be a news article. I don't know if it's going to be a conversation with one of his family members. I don't know if Jeff Bezos is going to be like, yo, here's 10 billion. Go home. But I think that he, at some point soon, will sell the team, just because I just don't think that, as insane as it sounds, I don't think the Yankees can be run in the same way that it used to be run before. I do think that they need to have a ultra rich, wealthy guy to run the team, because they made all their money from the Yankees, right? That's how they became billionaires, right? But the Waltons, the Steve Cohens, those guys, they got their money through other avenues, right? And they are big time pocket guys. And as you saw, like, motherfucker, the Lakers had to take out a PPP loan during the pandemic. Like, it's not the easiest thing for them to run that team too, and it ultimately broke down, and that's why they had to sell the team. So I can't give you a watershed moment. I don't know if it's Aaron Judge gets hurt. I don't know if it's fans start chanting "sell the team." I don't know if it's any of those, but I definitely think that this guy is going to get fed up to the point where he's like, I'm off this, and I'm giving it up, because it's just not the same revenue generator that, like, owning the Knicks is, right? Where it's like, I own MSG, so I own all of that. And so, I mean, fucking James Dolan made $1 billion last year just off of MSG alone. Hal is not making, according to him, he's not making that kind of money. And
according to him, he's not making any of this.
Exactly. I'm saying he's going broke doing this.
He's going broke.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I ultimately just don't think that this is going to be something that he is going to enjoy doing anymore. And I think that there in the future might be a conversation about him potentially moving on from the team.
I think that, what do you think the over under is that we get sell the team chance at a Yankees game? Like,
I
how
don't
many
think it'll be
losses
this year.
does it take?
How many
How
losses?
many losses? How many losses would it take in a row? Let's say, like, they go on a losing streak.
So
Is it 4
so
games?
here's the thing though, right? Like I don't think they're going to be that bad. You
No.
know, I
Yeah.
think because of Aaron Judge, number one, I think their pitching staff's really good. I don't think their team is great, but it's like I said last year. I think the AL is a significantly worse league, and there are always the White Sox. You know,
Yeah.
there's always, these bottom feeders that you can just beat up on, and you only got to win 90, and that's the thing too. The Yankees had, I think, the tie for the most wins in the league last year.
Totally.
So it's not like
Yeah.
their bottom fell out. They just lost to the Blue Jays. So I can't ever see them being bad. Like I really just can't see them being bad. To me, sell the team chance is when it is bad, like rock bottom, you getting smacked, the Red Sox sweep you, like something like that would have to happen. And again, unless Judge gets hurt, which again he can, but like unless he's out for like a month, 2 months, I'm sorry, I just think the floor for this team is too high. As much as their own fans hate the team, I think the team is still pretty good. Listen, they went to World Series 2 years ago. They went to the ALDS last season. They're going to make the playoffs. Like, it's a foregone conclusion. Will they win the division? Who knows? But, yeah, I think that they are going to be, I don't think it will get to that level for them.
Yeah, probably not. Their floor is probably too high.
Yeah, I think their floor is 88 wins, Now, maybe 88 doesn't get you in, but like that's, I don't know. That to me is a place where I can't see it happening. But what we will see happening is Lane Riordan again on this podcast in the future. Thank you again for showing up. Please tell the people where they can find you, where your Substack is, and all your good stuff that you're doing, man.
Yeah, you can find me on Substack, just my name, Lane Riordan. Yeah, I have a piece coming out about LA sports soon because it's just been a really fun time living in LA and experiencing all the winning. I feel like it's a unique energy here. So yeah, check me there if you wanna read about LA sportum, or if you're so tired of that, you can come and hate read it, and it will be just as enjoyable.
Are you gonna do a review on the new Melania doc?
Oh yeah, you're right. I should actually get on that right now. I should actually skip work and go straight to that. No, I'm gonna. I think I'm missing it. Are you catching it? You gonna catch it?
Hell no. But I did see that it was rated the worst. It was rated the worst movie, I believe, of all time.
Perfect. Yep. That's some good shit.
Kind of encapsulates everything, right?
Yeah, it does. But yeah.
Yes. Thanks you guys again. That is Lane. I'm your boy Just. This is the Men Who Cry podcast. Thank you guys again for listening. And we'll see you guys later in the week. Peace out, everyone.